Welcome to J Lopez Podcast. I'm your host, George, and today we have an amazing guest. He's an entrepreneur, he's a surfer, and he's a guy that inspires me to go above and beyond. Carlos Garcia.
What an intro, bro. Thank you for that. I like that. Entrepreneur, surfer.
I have more things to add on, of course, but let's just keep it simple
This is good.
so that I don't get too many details on who you are, so that you can do that for the audience.
100%.
Carlos, welcome. It's a very honor to have you here.
100%, primo.
So let's get into it. Let's know who you are. I know who you are, but let's go ahead and give a little bit of details on who you are and where you come from.
Okay. So, Carlos Janín Garcia Fernández y otra hierba aromática que ni lo chivo na de mano. So, we'll start from there. And that's the name that Tutu gave me. Tutu is my grandpa. Which means I'm just basically a smelly kid. And that humor to the name actually helped us a lot when we crossed the border. I was about 5 years old, and born in Cuba, raised a bit in Venezuela. Then when we were crossing over, I said that name to the patrol officer there, and he just started laughing his ass off. And I always like to start with that story, so you know where we come from. And so yeah, it's I'm a byproduct of a very loving family. So I had to say to my three, I just had to say I'm a free, connected, and loving man. And with that, that's taken me to the world, it's taken me to Bali, taken me to Morocco very soon, and surfing and building businesses. That's what I love to do: connecting, building businesses, and surfing.
Surf.
Yeah.
So how many hours do you surf a day?
When I'm in go mode, I can easily do 2 sessions. I can easily do 2 sessions, but if I'm also building, I would say 2 hours, 2 hours a day.
Okay, well that's actually on the
That's
surfboard.
on a work day. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's on a work day on the surfboard.
yeah.
What's your physical preparation? Because you look amazing, brother.
Thank you, bro.
Man, you look good. So you gotta definitely put some training behind
Yeah,
before actually getting on the surfboard.
yeah, yeah. I mean, really, the surfing does a lot for you because the whole time you're balancing on the board. So the best way to think about it is like those bouncy balls in the gym. You're just trying to you can put your feet there and then just try to hold plank, right? That'll so the whole time you're just using stabilizing muscles. By the first couple times your ribs are gonna be hurting. Um and then it's a lot of shoulder. Um I don't do anything crazy more than prep when I'm here in Miami and I don't have the waves nearby, then I do have to be doing the pistol squats, like you saw the one-legged squats, and the push-ups. So I make sure that when I do get back on the waves, the cardiovascular fitness is there and the explosiveness is there. And yeah, I mean, it just checks off a lot of boxes. You know, you have a you're connected with nature. You're there. There's you can't put waves on a time slot. You can't put them in an actual box. And each wave is completely different than the last one. So you can be in your mind about the last wave, this and that, but if you are, then you're not going to perform well in the wave that you're currently on. And so it has a lot of analogies with life. It has a lot of analogies with life. And especially us, that we got to find that balance of when you're pushing and when you're observing, and when you're accepting, pushing and accepting, pushing and acceptance, and that dance is illustrated super well. It's embodied very well in surf, and that's why I love it. It's one of the reasons I love it.
Takes me to a very deep dialed in question that I've had for a long time. And how does a guy like you that came from amazing studies, went to New York
Yeah.
and worked in
Yeah, I worked in RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, in their entertainment media and their communications media and entertainment team. And I did that as an investment banker for about a year. So it was a culmination of uh,
Living the American dream, what you study for so hard all your life, what you got prepared for all your life, and all of a sudden, the next thing I hear is, Primo, I'm going to Bali to live my life. What I want to know how that happened.
yeah. There's some years in between those two things. But the first thing is the summer I was training to become an investment banker. Um, they have this whole training in Canada, and by the end of the training, um, I get a call from a friend, and yeah, but yo, have you heard about Jack? I'm like, no, I haven't heard. And Jack was an acquaintance, and we actually shared the same taxi together to go to a final round interview for this boutique investment banking firm called Centerview, and this is the top of the top. They pay 200,000 for your first year there, so it's the top of the top.
Wow.
And this friend of mine at the time, we weren't super close friends, but we were acquaintances, and he was even coaching me. Like even though we're competitors for the same position, he was coaching me on specific financial concepts. This man loved finance.
Wow.
So that was my first wake up call when I got that call and he got ran over by a car
Wow.
on the West Side Highway in New York. And that night I was gonna just quit. I didn't even start the job and I was already I gotta quit this shit, man. Cause I knew it wasn't for me, bro. It's just for me. I was like, I'm if I get ran over, I'm gonna have regrets. I don't want to live that way. And then I talked about it with a couple people, and one of them, Howie, and I decided to stay to get like just real world experience. But I already had a deadline on that job. I knew it wasn't a column, and that's that was the difficult thing to break out of that structure, to break out of just the whole world that I had created for myself. I didn't want to be in that world, and the more the months passed on that first year, I saw that it definitely wasn't the world for me. I only saw one of the bosses. His name is Marcos Torres. He actually lives most of the time now here in Miami, and he was the one of the only people I saw that was peaceful and present. I didn't find that from many other people, and I already felt inside I wasn't very peaceful or present, and I didn't want to stay in an industry that, or any job that was going to keep me away from that. Um, and so that was the first break into entrepreneurship.
Mm.
And I moved to Miami, and I started a digital publishing business on Amazon.
But before we get to that way, because I also love that story, I don't know exactly, and I probably a lot of people have a lot of questions about investment banking.
Okay.
What's the preparation like? The same way you got prepared to get on that board and start living your dream.
Mhm.
Obviously, what was that preparation, schooling, mentally, and moving to New York away from family? What was that like?
Yeah. So in investment banking, to break into investment, it's the most competitive field, right? So where people like you and I are very competitive. We're just like, oh, what's the most competitive thing? What's gonna pay the most? You know? And whatever answer was, I was gonna go do that thing.
Right.
You know? Um, and there's already a lesson there instead of listening. What is it that I already pay attention to that I don't have to force myself to pay attention to?
Mm.
But at the same time, I wanted to make bank,
Who doesn't?
yeah,
I think as kids, we love the idea of doing something because we want to get rich, till we don't want to have regrets.
yes, that's
Right.
exactly it.
And then obviously you found yourself in New York doing the one thing you got prepared for.
Yeah.
in a fast moving pace world in New York. I never lived in New York,
Yeah.
but I'd heard, and I want to hear a little bit more about it from you. How does that world move?
Okay. Well, the preparation was to be a financial analyst. You have to understand financial accounting, just like a whole curriculum, right? Just business. I got a bachelor's in business administration from Goizueta, and also Cuban, by the way.
Mm.
He was a president of Coca Cola. He was an immigrant, and he has this. Yeah, that's a beautiful story in and of its own. But the preparation is that's just the top layer is just understanding financial accounting and understanding cash flow, understanding like just your usual financial concepts. After that is a lot of networking. I had to express an Excel spreadsheet of all the banks that I wanted to work out. And the preparation for me started early. It started it in freshman year, like any year. And then I positioned myself and and I and I did an internship with our uncle and for his company, his HVAC company. And and then yeah, I was able to help with the marketing, this and that, and I brought that to start talking on in the second year of college, the sophomore year, and I got an internship there and for Verizon Wireless and in their not Verizon Wireless, just Verizon in their finance leadership development program that they actually paid. They actually paid money as a. I didn't really have any skills, that crazy skills. I could do a little bit of Excel. And that was a great program, and I got paid like $23 an hour, which was sick. And then I just saved all that, and then while all my friends were heavily networking, I was just like I had like reached like a burnout, and I was like I'm going to Singapore, and I just went to Singapore. I got all my classes on Monday and Tuesday, and then all the money that I made that summer, I just spent it traveling. So I would be in class Monday, Tuesday. Tuesday I would get a plane somewhere and be back Sunday and repeat. And all the classes are pass fail. Many times I wasn't, and many times I would just like skip these classes. My teammates, and you have to make some groups to like present, and do work together. They never saw me. They were not appreciative of my travel habits. But the cool thing is that when I got back, I had so many stories.
Right.
So I could just talk to someone that had just been sick of hearing how much attention to detail this prospective candidate has versus I got reined in on Cambodia, and I was the only person in the temple. They closed the whole temple, and I was able to surpass the security guard. He didn't see me, and I was the only person in the biggest temple in the world. You know, kind of stories you don't hear that. Yeah, I get it. Like yeah, so I got a good internship, and all my friends that were like just studying like crazy and this and that, like that were like doing their networking like crazy. Um,
Everybody that was doing their job, everybody that was really doing above and beyond didn't get an internship.
it's very competitive.
It's very
It's very
competitive.
competitive. In my year, there was like 32,000 applications for 100 and something spots. Wow, something bizarre. Yeah, yeah, it's great.
And actually, the one thing that gets you there is all this crazy story, all that traveling, and I think it's part of life having something different to talk about other than what you do, right? So
Yeah.
you said in freshman year, you have a unique story that I love, by the way,
Okay.
and it's friend. So you went to a school that is unique. It's called Archimedes.
Ah, yes, a comedian upper conservatory.
So you went from what age to that school?
Yeah, so this is Archimedean middle school and Archimedean upper conservatory. And my mom heard about the school and that they're Greeks, and she has this idea that Greeks are the smartest people, and they started the Western civilization. So let's apply there. And from the sixth grade, and then every single year they made a new grade. So I was always top of the class. Right, me and my friends. But the graduating class wasn't that much. I think we started with 60 something, and we ended in the graduating class was 29 people. Wow. Yeah, the first.
And this is a Greek school. You're
I had
Cuban, born and raised. Well, were born. You're in Venezuela,
yeah, born in
and you're now in a Greek school because
yeah,
they decided to put you there so that you can be the best of the best in the world.
that's it. That's exactly
And you do become the best of the best in the world. You go to New York. You're fulfilling all these dreams and admirations, but then it takes me back to this one thing, which is don't want to have any regrets.
yeah.
I want to deep dive into what that really feels like because I think people misunderstand the fact that you're successful, you're making money, or we're looking for a better income so that we can have a better life, stability, and all this. But then your heart isn't filled because you start having regrets within the time, right? You go above, you go along with life, and that's the one thing you don't feel good about. That then it starts giving you regret. How does a guy like you, so young, that has traveled the world at that time and point where you were in New York doing all this beautiful work, that felt that one thing that shifted you away from all this money because you were gonna start making almost $250,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you started having regrets about what you were doing. You weren't feeling,
Yeah.
you weren't feeling apart, and you leave it off and you go to Bali.
Well, I come
Well, you come to Miami. Okay. You come back to Miami.
yeah, and then I started a business, and that's another story. But once to that point, I didn't really understand the skill set of listening, and there was two things. It was it's listening and being integrous and being honest. So when I would go to the interviews for these investment banks, I knew what to say.
Oh,
Didn't mean I felt that one,
oh.
but I had so many of these. I can't wait. Has um. Let me see if I can even bring up the story out of my mind. Investment banking has a best of qualitative and quantitative, I'm both a people person, likes to work on teams, but I also love to break things down in systems and so I would give people the spiel, but I didn't really care. And you do that enough times, you create distance from yourself.
Mm.
And then not listening, where was my attention going effortlessly? That's a good question I have now. Like, where's my attention going to? Effortlessly. And effortlessly, I did like math. I did like these engineering things, and I also liked anthropology
Mm.
and biology and how systems work together. And I wasn't listening to that. I didn't listen to that. You know. Um, and so I didn't know how to listen. I didn't know how to listen to myself. I didn't know that you can really create and design a life based on the things that bring you most life. I just thought that you had to just follow the path that everyone else followed.
You want to go ahead and I love what you just said. You want to go ahead and say that again? That one that brings you life
Yeah.
quote. I wanna, you know, uh, I wanna pray.
Um, to create a life that makes you feel most alive.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so deep.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And it can be simple too. Absolutely. It can be simple. And but sometimes it's not easy. It's not easy to turn down admiration, from everyone telling you, "Oh, you're doing the right thing, you're going to school, you're getting the good grades."
Right.
It's not easy to turn that down, you know? It's simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy to turn down the economic opportunity. It's not easy to quiet the noise of not the noise of hmm, the very pure reciprocity that we as immigrants feel. We want to get back to our parents. It just we feel it.
Naturally.
Yeah. Like if I feel about her now, I can easily tear up.
Right.
I feel it.
Right. 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 I
It
think it's
is
something that we carry up.
yeah. Yeah. And then so like it's easy to let that hijack you and you just go and think about, okay, what's gonna create the best story in this scenario, instead of like, no, no, what's my story? What do I already actually pay attention to? Where can I where can I create that life that brings me that makes me feel most of that?
What is it that did that happen to you?
Yeah, so I've been reflecting on this, and I think it started in at 18, man. At 18, it started. I was just like crushing myself to get better grades on the standardized test on ACT. They have the SAT and the ACT. Ah. And that's what for some reason, like, I just felt so much urge to go to the park that's by behind my house and just read. The
It's called like Tito's Heart, by the way.
Not that one, not that that's not that one. No, I love that park. That's another park. That's another story too. I love that park. And Parque Guido. But yeah, I started feeling this urge to go and read. There was this book by Jules Verne, La Isla Misteriosa in Spanish. The Mysterious Islands. And instead of studying, I'm like, "Ah, that's weird, because I usually like, and that was like the first time that I wasn't listening to. I kept pushing myself to, well, no, you got to do well. You got to do well. Instead of taking a step back and like, what are you doing well for? Who is a servant?
Ooh.
Who is a servant? You know? And and it's hard to have that level of, depth and awareness and at that age, if you don't have the right people around you that have gone through something similar. If I would be able to talk to my 18-year-old self, I'd tell him, don't go to college. Take a year. Take a year.
Nobody does that, by the way. Nobody has that level. I think we're so involved in life that it's so hard to at that age take that mental break and know or think what's the next step. Yeah, what's next? It's like we go into life, into the adult life at about 18. I think us as Latin, that we go into that world that at that age we wanna rule the world.
Hmm.
And that what you just said right there is like, why don't we just take a little break, feel what we really want to do, and then
And pursue it.
and then explode it.
100%. 100%. And that is th- that's another story. That's another part that doesn't get rewarded. So, you're gonna do what's being rewarded. But was starting to tell me that there's actually no reward here, but you don't even see it.
Right.
Yeah. And so that was those were the first signs. That was the first signs, but I still plowed through, and it wasn't like, that college was a terrible time. It was very fun, you know?
I remember you used to call me and Primo, come over this way. This is,
Yeah, man.
even though you were hard on the books and you were studying, but you were also, how was college?
Oh, I felt the shift immediately, from that summer. That summer was the first time that I like, I was on the couch. I was every single summer before that, I was getting my scuba diving, license. I became a rescue diver already in scuba diving. I was doing free diving. I was doing all these things. And that summer I was just like, I don't know. I was just like slumped a little bit. And that should have been like a wake up call, like, and and from there, when I went into college, like, the level of intensity and curiosity that I had for studies, it just went down. I don't know, I had already done 14 advanced placement, courses. I had done 14 exams. So 14 college courses in high school. I already did them. So when I got to college, I had all these courses already done, and I started to just like, all right, well, I guess what's the other end? But I wasn't very intellectually curious anymore. Now I was just getting the thing to get the grade, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, it was just another form of not listening to myself. Um
By the way, that's a similar story to Theo when he went to Russia and studied. He kind of fell. I don't know if you ever spoke to him about that. Oh, yeah, I talked to him. Now hearing the story, I can I he was telling me how he went to Russia still studying La Unión Soviética.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was just there, man. He was just there to just get the grades, come back to Cuba, and execute that one thing he wanted to do. But he was just there to please your grandpa and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he goes in the first day of class and never went back again to the last day of class. So it's kind of like a similar story. You go to college, you already have all this curriculum from high school. So what was college like? I didn't go to college, and I want to know a little bit more. Probably a lot of people want to know a little bit more how really college life is.
Ah, man, it's fun, man. It's just it's fun. It's fun. It's like you're in your little microcosm. You're in your own little world. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do Greek life, like the fraternity life, but then I ended up doing it. And and yeah, man, you're just chilling with the boys. The boys are helping you pass the classes, too. They may have a little bit of secret knowledge here and there about the exams, that gets passed down from one class to the other. Then you got the mixers with the sororities, so you're going to all these parties with the girls, and you're having a swell old time, man. You're gonna having a real nice time. It doesn't hurt either that you're also, that we're Latin, and I was doing the salsa.
Yeah, you're a salsa dancer, man. You can dance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It didn't come naturally. I did have to learn that. Thanks to my girlfriend Rodrigo. But but yeah, man. That was. I mean, you're just free to explore a bit. You're just free to make friends that you wouldn't normally make, and mingle with people that you wouldn't normally mingle with. Explore some classes. I did anthropology, for example. I love my anthro classes. Um, yeah, man, it's fun. It's a fun experience. I recommend it. If you've got the extra cash there just sitting around and
If you're watching, let me tell you something. College is the most beautiful thing that you would have wanted to do, or is the most beautiful thing that you will do, because again, you go into life, you're 18 years old, you got to take a break, and you can take one or two steps. You go into the work world, which what I did, or you go into the college world and have all this amazing experience and get to tell the story after.
yeah.
And me personally, I get to live it through, because I remember you were in college and you used to call me and you were so excited. And I was kind of already working, and I would be like, "Ah, why did I take this route? Why did I take the working route?" And then you will call me again, Kiki, come over, man. You were so excited. And I was like, I got to provide for my family now, because I went on the route of providing
Yeah.
rather than going on the route and getting a little bit more studies. I mean, my life circumstances are a little bit different than yours, of course. I was facing a little bit of a difficulty back in when I was 18,
Yeah.
and it was totally different. But what I'm trying to get to is, if you have the opportunity to go to college, do so, man. Not only because of the study, because at the end of the day, like Carly's saying, is the studies are gonna be easy, the friends are gonna help you, but it's the life experience that you get to live. Nobody can take that from you. So I just wanted to say that and get back to you, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, everyone with their own life circumstance, right? Like if those are the right cards for you, then yes. If you're going into and you love, let's say law, let's say you want to become a doctor. So I would recommend college for those paths, For finance too, can be. There's a lot of the world is shifting very, very rapidly into decentralized finance, into DeFi. But you gotta just understand that you're not just regurgitating someone else's story, and then you don't know where that story is coming from. You gotta make sure that it's your story. And I and the next level is to do take any action. It's fine. So like the first level is understand your story. The second level is, well, if you don't know what it is, try shit. Just try to do something, and and then you'll get to the same to that place where like, well, that wasn't my story, you know? But at least thinking. At least you weren't thinking in some room and you were doing shit.
Or you weren't following somebody else's story just because it seemed, it seemed exciting because somebody else did it, and now I want to follow those footsteps that lead you into emptiness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and you can get there too, is what I'm saying. You can get to that emptiness and then understand, like I did, that well, it wasn't my story. You know?
Yeah, but you wouldn't have that regret.
But I don't have any regret now. That's the thing. I don't have any regret because that's what I needed to see at that certain point in life. Now I understand the power that I have and where it's coming from. Right? I know I have the power to concentrate ridiculously on certain for a very prolonged period of time, and I also have the power now to listen to myself, what it is that I actually want, and how to move through this life in a way that's much more authentic. And and you'll find that if you're coming from a place of calm and you're not trying to run away, you know? And that and we all trying to run away when we have fear. You know, we just don't know what it is outside of that unknown. We just don't know. Um my story is very similar to many other people's stories that can't come to the same conclusion. Very similar stories, it's idiosyncratic to me, but the story arc, the themes, very on point. And you can't feel someone else's story sometimes. Sometimes you just have to go through your own story and have the heartbreak, have the I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my life moments. And that's your story arc. That's these are the moments. And then that happened again when I was in Miami. When I came back to Miami, started the publishing business, you know? And it was doing well for a moment, but then I was like, ah man, I wanna make a bigger impact. So I went back to the corporate world. I did enterprise sales. I don't know if you ever knew this, but I did.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
I beat it. No, my guys, this is a guy that I know since I was a little kid. And still yet we have so many things that we've done through life that we don't know because again we go in the world and start experiencing things, and and then in a time like this where we get to share the deep stories and know about each other even more, yeah, every time. So tell me a little bit more about that, man.
Well, yeah, the point there is there let me see where I can start that story. Okay, so I wanted to basically it got me back. So I had a business that was surrounded about my passions, which was about reading books. So I had a publishing business. Um, and then it came to I was just thinking how I'm gonna scale this thing, and the work to scale that business was not about reading books anymore. It's about scaling a business.
Right.
Which is different than just fucking reading a book, dude.
Yeah,
There's
it went from the passion of reading a book to scaling the business. You can't read 1,000 books and then and summarize them. So
I was looking at this work and I was like, why don't I just go into sales and make a lot more money? You know? Why don't I just do that instead? And so that business I kind of left it a little bit running. It's still running. You can still find on Spotify executive growth summaries. Yeah, executive growth summaries on Spotify. Executive growth summaries on Spotify. If you want a synopsis, a summary of the best business and self development books. And so, and that was a dope business because I got to learn a lot. I got to learn a lot, and I love the learning part.
this is the beginning of your entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You enter the space of I'm no longer working for somebody else. You started for a passion, soon to know that it was more about sales than it was about your passion.
Yes, yes. So the first book I read when I left Wall Street was one of the first books was The 4 Hour Work Week. And fuck you, Tim Ferriss. I love you. Thank you. Because it was such great marketing. The framework was really good. I still remember the framework. It's called DEAL. Define, eliminate, automate, liberate. That was the framework of that book. And define is, and that was where I got the most value of define was defining like this ideal life that I had in my mind. Defining it, just literally write it down, and then look how much it costs to live that life. How much does it cost to rent, a boat, the ideal boat that you had, like and it happened to me the other day. Like I was just thinking, I was so far away from this ideal catamaran that I want to have. And then I saw how much it would be to finance it on a per month basis. I was like, oh shit, it's much closer. It's a doable now. It's much more doable. So that's how I started. I was like, okay, so what business is gonna get me to these figures so I can be able to at that point in time it was how I'm gonna be able to sail and how I'm gonna be able to do spearfishing. That's what I was really into. I'm still really into both of those things, but I wasn't into surfing. Now I have another thing that I'm really into. But back then the solution was finding a passive income stream business, and I thought publishing on Amazon, and it worked. It worked, and it was nice. We got
I remember
yeah,
you blasted the whole family on buying your shit.
I remember that. Yeah, that was a good year. That was a good year.
True story of that, which I have, is you didn't summarize this book, but there's a book that you gave me, mm, that I started reading, that I never paid attention to till few years later that we met again. I'm like, Carly, you remember that book you guessed in me? I read it. All I can remember is that I was just reading. And all of a sudden, I'm trying to remember the name of the book. And I read through the whole book and I can't remember the name of the book till you come back from Bali one of those times. And I'm like, Carly, what was that book, bro? I wanted to read it. And then finally I read it and it started to dawn on me whatever everything was in that book. So I would have wished you would have done a summary
That book,
of that book.
it could
I don't want to give any shout outs to that book. Maybe once Carly summarizes the book, then
no. Let's give shout outs. This is a great book.
you're very good.
Yeah, for any man that wants to level up their game. I first encountered that book in college. I know what book you're talking about. We're doing a little sidetrack here, but we'll come back to the main story, a side quest right now. That book is called The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. And I came across that book because I was starting to go out and pick up chicks.
Yeah.
And I used to follow these people called Real Social Dynamics. His name is Owen Cook, I believe is the yeah. Owen Cook. And I even did one of his seminars. I left early of one of my final exams to go to one of his seminars in Atlanta. And he recommended that book. And that was like my first time getting to like kind of the self-development industry. Yeah. And well, that book was the presence of I felt that was a masculine presence. Like the things that my father, or or grandpa or uncles couldn't articulate very well, it was in that book. It was very well articulated. What many times what they're trying to say to us was very well articulated in that book. Um, and then I didn't get that book again till many years later. Like I read it, but it was very surface level.
Kind of like the same thing that happened to me.
Yeah, every book has the right time of depth.
Yeah.
You can read a book 1 year and it has no effect on you. You write a book the second year, it has a deep effect on you. And you can read it again on the 10th on like 10 years after, and it has an even deeper effect on you.
Of course.
Only like what level of awareness you're ready for.
Right.
How much pain are you ready?
Or how much do you really want what you're after, right? Yeah. Because in my personal experience is I had already gone through a phase where the book didn't have any effect on me, and then I'm looking for the next phase in my life where I was looking for that book because I remember that it had so much value. I just couldn't, connect to it. And then I read it again, and man, again, The Way of the Superior Man, you should read it and read it many times. It's made my marriage so much better. So much better. Understanding so many things that are in that book has made me better as a man, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a family member because it's lovely. Lovely is a lovely book. But of course, I totally agree with you that you should definitely read the book and read it many times over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the books I always come back to. Yeah, I'll be happy to share like the books that I'm always coming back to in different realms of life. Um
But well, anyways,
coming back
coming back to the story.
coming back to the story. So it was that deal framework that defined. So I defined that ideal life, and I felt that the Amazon business would be the one. And I did that for about 2 or 3 years, and it was nice. We got the sailboat, and we got to many Boca Chica trips.
Yeah. I don't wanna diverge the conversation again, but we do have a story where they have him in the podcast, and we're gonna definitely dial into a very deep, least the elbow experience that we had. But again, we don't want to get into that now. So there's so many. You finally, yeah, there's so many carries. There's not enough time. But again, we go back to start of your Amazon business. You got your sailboat. The one thing you wanted to do, I remember you were so passionate about it. Yeah. By the way, he bought a sailboat that was not in the best working condition, but he was working on it passionately. And that passion just made me want to get him a sailboat.
A passion, yeah.
The passions, these, it's just like,
Even when those conditions are not the best.
we'll get to that. But anyways, you finally got your sailboat, you feel achievement. How's the next step going for you?
Yeah. So then, but I'm not seeing that much growth. After a year, 2 years, I'm not seeing that much growth, and I'm like, okay, well, there's something going on here. So maybe I can just get really good at one specific skill. And the question I always had is like, what are the skills an entrepreneur needs to have? Because I come from the academic background. I'm like, I can just study that. I can just sit down. What the fuck is the skill? I want to know who has. Tell me the skills, please. Anyone have the skills?
Right.
You know, like I want to like a trade school for, like how you have a trade school for that your technicians go to, to get better at Well, same thing. How do you get better at entrepreneurship? And and yeah, man, for the longest time, I couldn't find what that was. Um, but now, uh, at that point in time, I was just like, well, sales is going to be one of them. I got to get better at sales. And
And that's again, you're learning for a skill. This is highly important because people say or think, and sorry to interrupt you, but people say or think that sales is something that you're born with. But exactly, let's go back to what he's saying, and you're looking for a skill. And I personally think that sales, it's a skill that you start to develop within time. So
yeah,
tell me about that because you're really hard into studies, but now you're looking for a skill and you wanted to up your skill in sales.
yeah, and also make more money. I guess set a good financial foundation for myself. And I had a buddy working in enterprise sales, and he put me in touch with his team, and he was on the way out of that team, and then I came in, and just like that, I started working for MuleSoft. It was integration as a service. And then they're part of Salesforce now. So I was remotely working here for a company in San Francisco.
Wow.
Did that for about a year, but um, it wasn't for me.
I don't think that how people have experienced that, which is getting to know or doing the one thing you think it was gonna be it, and then all of a sudden it isn't. So that's where you come from the part where you don't have regrets because whatever you wanted to do in that point in time, you started to do. And then again, you checked in with yourself, noticed that you weren't incongruent with it, and left.
Yeah,
So pretty much you just left that company here.
yeah.
Coño, bro.
Yeah, I know. No, and my manager was amazing. Jen is like she's like one of the people that I look up to a lot on how she managed. It just so happened that I'm so driven by the authenticity of like what I'm selling that I just couldn't do it. Yeah, I couldn't, and that was a big sales lesson for me. It's like your sales ability amplifies 10x, 100x if you actually give a fuck.
Right.
And but there's different people in the world though. Like I'm understanding that. Like for me, I need to give a fuck. There's some people that understand the money, understands what's the energy they need to put in,
Of course.
and that for them is That's what makes them give a fuck, right? So is
The income behind it. Uh, Even though it's not in line with what exactly you want to
I
do,
don't know if it's the income behind it. It's the
numbers game.
it's the strategy maybe that they like the strategy behind is like, okay, there's an opportunity right now in the market and no one's addressing it right now. Could I do it? And it's the challenge of it. Of I think that
If you had the capability of closing closing sales, but you weren't feeding it.
I was no. This the first year is usually you're like still training. You're not like you're not presented these like yeah, these 6-figure or 7-figure deals yet. No. You work up to them. After that year to a year and a half, then then you start becoming more of a deal maker. Um but yeah, man, I couldn't see myself there again. So taking it back to books, I listened to this book called Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And that book is what gave me the permission to listen to myself even deeper. And I don't know if you're seeing it. That's how I started the podcast.
That's the journey, right? That's
Really,
listen. Try to listen more to yourself than to others.
exactly. It's it's understanding what's deeper. What are the sources that are deeper, right? So you have, and how are you operating? Are you operating from what source are you operating? Um, and we can go into more detail on that. But that book specifically gave me permission to chase dreams. Literally.
I love this.
Yeah. He at the top of his fame when he was like 29 or 30, I believe, he had a dream that he was floating down the river and it was 8 frames, one per second, two, three, four, so eight. And then he it's a wet dream. So he ejaculates and he wakes up. He's like, oh shit. And he believes it's in the Amazon. Okay. So this motherfucker books a flight to Africa, thinking that the Amazon is in Africa. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. The Amazon is not in Africa. And yet this motherfucker booked a flight to Africa because of a dream. Because of a dream. And he's like, I'm gonna go there because that's where the river's not even there.
Right.
I'm like, what the fuck is this guy thinking? But he's about to, he still booked it and he still went. And then there he had like a bunch of other adventures happen. What did it do? Broncos jumps up.
He had another story, by the way, which is on he takes his 21 days walkabout. But I think honestly that to kind of end this and wrap it up is following your dreams is getting to know and understand what you want to do in life.
Let me right before then. I listened to that book. I listened to it like 2 times on runs and walks. And then around December, I saw a YouTube video. And the title of it was How I Afford to Spearfish Every Day. And then it hit me like a bolt of lightning.
Mm.
This man goes from New York, moves to Bali, starts spearfishing in Bali, having a great life. He breaks down the cost of living in Bali. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
What's his name?
His name is Aquatic. The YouTube channel is called Aquatic Apes.
Fuck you, guy. Carly lost it. I remember everybody around the family was saying, Cardi is crazy. What the fuck did he do? So this is who to blame.
Yeah, Letty. Yeah, like that guy.
I go. But very afraid that, the reason why is because I now have a cousin that's fully authentic. He's in spirit, he's at peace, and he can bring so much value that way to the world than chasing a false dream that is just based on money and numbers, right? When your authentic self is doing what you're most passionate about, is when you're at peace. And that's what I feel from you, Primo. That after you have all the story, after you run through all this scenarios of looking for your inner peace is what I call it. Is I get to now have a cousin that authentic that is not just chasing a false number, rather chasing a dream. So, man, I love that you went through all those scenarios, that you found that guy, and finally brought you to Bali. And I think as many episodes that will be going on throughout the time you're here in Miami, I want to leave the Bali story right here, right now, because I want just one episode for you to see that is just about that Bali story that I'm so in love with. That not only I'm so in love with, but finally got to bring you the joy that you were after.
Yeah, man.
So, call you please. Carlos Garcia,
Right.
in the house from Bali, that lived so many stories, that is still chasing.
Now, geez, so now we're attracting.
Now we're attracting.
We're attracting you, people.
We're attracting you, mate.
Chasing nothing.
So,
Yeah.
the view right here, right there, so that you guys can follow again and see the next episode that we'll have him back in the house. Carly, please, would you tell the audience, his lovely audience that is following us, where to follow you, where to see these upcoming adventures that you're about to experience in Morocco? So I want you guys to not only hear the story of Bali when he comes back to the scene, but also know that he's going on the next adventure.
The next adventure. Yes. Yes. So you can follow me on the Carlos D as in Daniel, Carlos D Explore on Instagram, or the website carlosdexplore.com. And yeah, stick around for the next adventures. We're gonna go to Europe, and we're gonna find good waves, and we're gonna continue building uh great businesses with founders that are integrated with truth and with themselves, with source, and they want to bring a vision to the world from a source of love.
Could have said it better. I'm gonna drop it right here and there because he said it all. Thank you guys for watching till the end. I hope you tune into our next episode so you can hear about his story. Primo, thank you for being here. It's such an honor to hear, uh, uh, apart from knowing who you come from, knowing all the stories, being so close to me, being able to see and hear more stories about you that I would have ever thought of. I didn't know any of as the gift. So thank you for having you here. It's a gift of God that you're in Miami and I get to share this beautiful moment with you. Let's do it.